Record. There we go. Okay, so what we're doing today is DotLoop. So as you guys know, the way that I always do this is to try and adapt it to the group. Hi, Bill. You were tucked in the corner. I didn't see you. To adapt it to the group that we have with us, okay? So we may have more advanced users. We may have more intermediate users. So we'll try to make sure that everybody gets a little bit of something. If I go too fast for our new people, then remind me to slow down. If I don't go fast enough for my experienced users, then we'll make sure we answer that question to the higher level. Fair? Does that work for everybody? Okay. So for the people online, when you want to join in, you can either do the chat and my eyes in the room will tell me when I have a message to look up, or you can take yourself off mute and join in. So you should be able to see the screen if you're online and you're just looking at the general login page for DotLoop at this moment is what you should see, okay? So the idea really with this is that you will have done your intro session with Aaron. Everybody's done their intro session with Aaron on DotLoop? Yes, no. Okay, so do you all have a user ID and password? Yes? Okay, well that's the first start. Okay, so the idea is that what I try to make sure I focus on when I'm showing you this class is not always just the physical mechanics of actually using DotLoop, because we have Erin who can always help you with that, and you can call in anytime during the day and she can help you. She can share your screen by going into GoToMeeting with you if you're stuck at home and you're like, trying to explain to her what you're seeing, and 99% of the time what you're saying and what is actually happening are not the same thing. We have a GoToMeeting account that they can go in and she can switch you to the presenter so that she can see your screen and the other way around, and that way we can actually see what you're doing and walk you through it, okay? So we always want to make sure that we have that ability to help you. And also, one of the important things I want you to know, I'm going to show you how to do this, is because after hours, right, I don't really want you, honestly, to call me at 8 o'clock at night going, I'm stuck in DotLoop, because I can't see your screen. I can only troubleshoot so much. I'm usually in the car when you call me, and I don't really understand what the heck it is you're asking me that you want to do. There is a number you can call for DotLoop. I'll show you where to find it and how to find your individual account number that will let them go into your actual loops and walk you through it. And they're very, very helpful. So that's always your backup for the weird hours if one of us can't help you, okay? So what I want to focus with you on when we're using DotLoop is how to help it be a great tool to manage and improve your business. Because e-signatures are a physical just e-signatures. Like, okay, great, but how do we increase our turnaround time? How do we increase our profitability? How do we provide a better customer service experience using these tools outside of just the mechanics? Does that work for everybody? I'm going to show you some of the basics of moving around in there, but I'd like to focus more on what are the tools that exist in there to change your profitability. So I'll give you an example. I started using DotLoop. It'll be 4.5 years ago. I actually was using DotLoop before I came to KW. It was the program that my independent brokerage used. And so 4.5 years ago, I was putting 45 to 50,000 kilometers a year on my car. That just is what it was, because every initial that I needed for every flipping little thing, you know, a counteroffer, a tweak, a missing box, or whatever required me to get in my car, because we hit this weird generational change in technology where everybody used to have a printer and a scanner at home. And then they didn't all of a sudden because they were doing everything on a tablet or on their phone, and people actually stopped owning printers. So it used to be that we would print and scan, and they would print and scan and send it back, and then we got to this weird place where nobody could print anymore. Or they'd try and take a picture with their phone and send it back to you, and it was just a huge thing. Does everybody remember this? Anybody been in long enough to remember this kind of a weird gap? And so you end up having to drive back out to see people again because they didn't actually have any ability to sign otherwise, right? Or people are going to friends' houses, and it was like it was like we'd gone back 10 years. There was this weird kind of gap. So we switched over to DotLoop, and so I was super excited when I came to KW that it was the same program because it was super easy for me. So one of the things that happened is that in the last 4.5 years, I have reduced my mileage on my car by between 15 and 18,000 kilometers. It's huge. It's a huge amount of money. Here's a big thing. It's a huge amount of time. That's 15 to 18,000 kilometers off my life that I'm no longer spending. but my sales have continued to increase and my business has continued to increase and my referrals have continued to increase. So one of the big conversations that people have about using e-signatures at the next level, which I want to talk to you about, is the concept that you're going to lose the customer service experience and that it's going to become less personal. So the concept is to have this conversation about how to use them effectively without making your clients feel like you don't have time or aren't interested in sitting with them. Is that a fair objection that some people might have? So an example would be the mindset of our clients really want me to come. So Jamie, you're my seller and I have your counter offer that we're going to prepare, and you really want me to come and sit at your kitchen table at 10 o'clock at night while you're trying to put your small children to bed in a snowstorm. You really have no interest in seeing me. You would like to have a conversation with me. You want to feel that I'm engaged with you in this process. You want to know that I'm involved in giving you great advice, but you don't actually want to see me as much as I think you want to see me. It's equally as inconvenient for him as it is for me. So for anybody who's been in the business longer than 5 years, which is really, well, it's been about 3 years that e-signatures are really well accepted. For the first year and a half, we fought a lot with lawyers, we fought a lot with banks, we're done. We no longer have those fights. Yay! I spent a lot of time on your behalf talking to underwriters and bankers and lawyers, arguing with them about CREA and federal advocacy and how we had all of this approval so that you wouldn't have any issues. I'm happy to say I haven't had to have that call in a very long time. But your clients don't actually want to see you as much as you think they want to see you. Let's be honest. We're just not that cute. So Bill says, speak for myself. Well, of course, Bill's the cutest of all of us. Let's just acknowledge this. So the idea is, Holly says, yes, we are. So the idea is, how do we maintain that client relationship? So I'll give you an example. I haven't physically signed a listing agreement with a client in 4 years. All of my listings are done by DotLoop. All of my agreements of purchase and sale are done by DotLoop. I signed my first listing agreement in pen 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, because my client lives on the edge of the planet where she's on satellite data for internet and pays by megabyte. So I drove to her, right? First when I was like, oh my God, this takes a really long time. So, our business hasn't gone down. We've had our best years ever in the last 4 years. So I want to show you some of those things to help you grow your business so that you can spend more time either working with more clients or getting balance back in your life, which is something that can happen if you actually use these tools effectively. So the number one resource, well, I would say you have two resources as a realtor. One is your knowledge, and the second is your time. So the question is, how do we integrate those two things together to give you the best productivity and the best profitability in your business so that you are not running around for the sake of feeling busy? I have lots of things I can do if I'm not running around feeling busy. Make sense? Okay. So one of the things we're going to go through first is, obviously, let's get into the program. I'm going to show you a couple basic things. I'm going to walk you through some of the main features of it. If you already know them, it might be a refresher. I'm going to show you some of the tracking and things that exist in it. We'll do a quick sample, add a person, upload a document. And then I'm going to go into RealtorLink, and I'm going to show you how to pull your documents out of RealtorLink into DotLoop in case you're not familiar. You're going to have to go practice after I show you this. That's the idea. This is being recorded without my person, but the screen is being recorded and my voice. So you can go back and look at this later again if you need more. What I do also recommend is that every single time we do a DotLoop course, it's entirely different based on who's in the room. So don't ever feel, God love Larry, he's come and listened to me several times. It's one of those things where you kind of get one thing mastered and then you come back again in a few months and learn the next piece, right? But it's like any other learning. Someone in the room or someone online is going to ask a question that you didn't think of and that you're going to get something from the next time you attempt. Okay, is that fair for everybody? So we're going to do a document, we're going to create a loop. We're going to do a document, pull it out of RealtorLink, because that is the preferred way to do your documents versus actually doing them in DotLoop. Okay, so one thing to know, all of our standard forms are in DotLoop, and I will show you where they are. My personal opinion is it is more cumbersome to draft them that way than it is in web forms and upload them. But it is a backup should web forms go down, that you can still create electronic documents. Now, web forms really doesn't have the issues it used to. Years ago, it used to go down all the time. It rarely goes down now. It's pretty good. I mean, it's a national system, God love it. There's 100,000 realtors in it all the time, right? It doesn't go down more often is actually kind of amazing. But I want you to have that backup of knowing where the documents are, but it is not as user-friendly to draft an entire agreement in DotLoop as it is in web forms. The reason being is that it doesn't auto-populate. So when you enter a buyer's name in web forms, the name goes through every document that you have in the kit. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Yes? So, no, you're not supposed to see me, Lanny, on this one. Just the screen. I'm invisible. So the idea is you can use the DotLoop forms, but my recommendation is that you use that as a backup. Okay? It's just faster, easier to do them in web forms, download them, upload them, and Bob's your uncle. So I'll show you how to do that. I'll also show you how to grab something else to upload. So one of the purposes that I also want you to have is the ability to bulletproof your business from a broker perspective by using DotLoop. So for example, we as a team and our policy is that all major documents are shared with clients using DotLoop versus email. Why? Does anybody know why? So Bill said safer. What do you mean by safer? Hang on, you have to be banned.
I guess not as easy to get into if it's DotLoop versus email.
No, actually no, because you use your email to get into DotLoop. So, but it's a good theory. Good. Any other ideas? Jamie, you got one for me? Jamie, our new productivity coach, what you got?
You can tell if they've seen the document.
Bingo. You can see if they've seen it. So, for example, let's think about the client, because this, let's be honest, this is when it's going to be a case. The client, Holly says, we can see they've read and received them. Yes. So, for example, the time you email the client the restrictive covenants on the subdivision that you sent them to, and you have oh yeah, I'm going to check my email later, and then they buy the house, and then 6 months later they find out they can't have a dog, right? So if you actually have had a conversation and you've sent it to them and you had them initial the restrictive covenants, your ass is covered because they have signed it. And if they sign something without reading it, doesn't mean you shouldn't explain it. I'm just giving an example. But power costs or roof receipts or upgrades or taxes or, any of those things, we send them through DotLoop. And we ask our clients to initial them. Because then I know they've seen them. The other thing you run into when you're doing your transactions, if I'm sending my deal to Bill, and Bill's at that other brokerage, and he's the problem. We know about Bill. He's a bit of an issue. And you get into that he said, she said, well, I got it, I didn't get it. When did you get it? No, I didn't get it. Oh, my email was crashed. Oh, the file's too big, blah, blah, blah. One of the other big things for you as an agent is that DotLoop is free online virtual storage of documents. There's no size restriction. Where DotLoop stores its stuff, I don't really know, and I don't really care. In a gigantic server, but there's no space issues. So the other thing is if you're sending, I'll use an example, condo declaration. That's a big PDF. That's a big file. If someone has a Hotmail account, they're going to get it. So you don't have to worry about that. By using DotLoop, you will not have a size restriction in them opening it. So just little things, again, these are efficiency things so that when you're doing your business, you're not running around in a circle later going, oh my God, did they get it? How am I going to get that to them? Oh my God, what's your email? What kind of capacity does it have? Giga, mega, I don't know. Like what's the deal? You don't have those issues. So every time we save ourselves a challenge, we instantly become more efficient. And we instantly become more productive and more profitable. Make sense so far? Everyone good? Okay. So we're going to go through some of these basics, and then I'm going to show you quickly some of the advanced items within DotLoop, which is, for example, task management. So I'll just give you a quick intro. You can set, they're called templates. So you could have a buyer template where I can assign tasks to my buyer. Hook up your power, call for water, check your dog, I don't know, register for preschool, whatever the heck it is you want, and it will automatically send your client tasks on specific dates to do those things as reminders. How professional do you look? So you just assign the template. Now, setting up the template is not going to take 5 minutes. Let's just be clear about this. But once you have it done, and you open up a loop, and Larry's my buyer, and I assign my buyer template to him. Maybe I have a buyer template for condos, which is different than a buyer template for a mini home, which is different than a buyer template for a single family. Because I have to do some different things, right? So I set those up, and I assign that to my buyer, and every however many days, based on whatever the heck I decided, Larry gets a reminder, did you call? And they get to tick that they've completed it. So did you hook up your power? And they're like, oh my God, I totally forgot. My agent's the best. She sent me a note to remind me. How cool is that? So these types of tools are in there, and because we have the premium level account through KW, this would normally run you over $50 a month for this package, and it's built into your $55 a month for the premium DotLoop. Okay, so with that in mind, I apologize, I'm going to have my back to you a little bit, Elena. And okay, so I'm just going to make this smaller. So I am going to sign in. What is my password? So we have a team account. That is not the password. So for anybody that's running a team, do I have any teams here? You guys use a shared one or individual? Individual, okay. So what we do is we have a team loop, a team account with a general email, and that way everybody's stuff is all in one place, and it's not like, oh, I started this and I wrote this and then you wrote that, and it's really complicated. For a team of that size, that would be an overwhelming loop. The notifications would blow everybody's brains up. But if you're in a small group, well, there's what, 26 people? That's a lot of notifications. Anyway, so it's bad enough for us. We're 7, and we get a lot of notifications for everybody else, but it is very central in terms of having data storage, okay? So I am just going to search for, I'm going to create a new loop. So you can switch. So this is list view. You can switch to the bubble view, or grid, I guess it's called, if you prefer. I like the list better. There's no particular reason, I just do. So it's entirely up to you what you want. So the one nice thing about DotLoop is, with all due respect to all of us, it's created for 5-year-olds. So the basics of functioning in it, we should all, once we've played with it, it's not that hard to find your way through. So I'm going to click Create a Loop to start. So my recommendation is that you never, ever name a loop by a person's name. Always name the loop after the property. Why? Anybody?
Because you could have a couple of properties under that name. So you always want to go under the property, or at least I do.
Yes, that's part of it. And Jamie, you were going to add something?
You can sell lots of houses to one person.
That is always the ultimate goal. But let's think about the average. You say you list a house, and then you take up that seller's, you sell that house, and then you take that seller out buying. So if you have it by their name, you could accidentally send the purchase agreement over to the buyer's agent on the listing because it's all in one pile. It's a little dangerous, okay? So when you do it by property, you're able to keep it separate and therefore ensure the privacy so that you don't get yourself in trouble. The other piece of it is you could have one buyer who writes on one property and that property falls apart, inspection, blah, 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 and then you go shopping on another one, right? So it's always easier to go by property than by name, okay? You're going to do what you want, but that's my suggestion. So we're going to call it 123 Test Street. It will, but a lot of the addresses are US, right? So, and we don't, honestly, this is not my database. You can use this as a database, in which case people fill out all their clients' addresses and emails and, you know, their home phone numbers. I don't use it for that. I just need their name and their email so that I can get them to sign, okay? So I'm going to click Create Loop. So this was super complicated so far. Everyone okay? Didn't lose anybody? So this is what it's going to look like once you get into an empty loop. So the first thing that I always suggest you do is to add your humans, okay? So here's a very, very important message for you. Admin for Keller Williams Select Realty. What is that? Does anybody know? It's for here, Larry said, but here where here? No.
Listings?
Go ahead.
It's not listings?
No. So this is very important because if you think that you, Holly, are you supposed to be seeing that screen? What screen? Can you see the, can you see?
Never mind. That was before. I'm good now.
Okay. Admin for Keller Williams is Aaron's back-end administrative level of the DotLoop accounts. It is not sales or listings. So if you share it with admin, it's going nowhere that anyone is ever going to see. You need to add listings at kwhalifax.com. You need to add sales at kwhalifax.com as humans. So when you're trying to share your sale with Joy, you would share it with sales. When you're trying to send your listing documents in, you send it to listings. When Aaron logs in, so I want you to imagine, I probably have 300 or 400 loops in my account. There are 146 people at Keller Williams in our office. So when Aaron logs on, she can see 146 times 300 loops. We are not checking this back-end system for your listing agreement. This is how she can go in and set up your account. Okay? So you need to add sales and listings as a person to your loop. So what I would do here, I'm just going to shrink you again, Holly, there. I would go add person. Again, they've made it very complicated. So here, if I go sales, so I've already had this name added once. Once you add it once, it goes into the contact folder for DotLoop. So I typically only have to type the first couple of initials, and there they are. All I would have to do then is assign the role. So in this case, it would be admin. Okay? So you have to add them to each specific loop if you're going to share your documents with the office that way. That's the other reason why you want the address to be the loop name, because otherwise the office gets this loop and they don't know what you're doing. They don't know who this person is. Then they got to go look it up, figure out what property it's attached to. So now we've made our sales team cranky, which we never ever want to do. So so let's say it was an agent, right? So I'll put myself in because I don't want to send something to some random agent as a test, right? So I'll send it to myself. So in this case, so let's say this was a buyer deal. I'm a buyer, so it might be that that other agent is the listing agent. Okay? Does this make sense to you? Everyone with me so far? Yep, okay. So this is what I was talking about before on this big screen. Their name, their address, blah, blah. Okay, I don't care. I just, Mary Smith at Remax is, I know she's and I've assigned her as the listing agent or the buying agent. I don't need her address. This is not my database. Now, if you want to use this as your database, then proceed. But we have better database programs than this. Okay, does that make sense? Anybody have questions? So then at the bottom, it says add person. Ta-da! Look, it has me and it identifies as the listing agent. This is to prevent you from accidentally sending something to the wrong person. You can add their lawyer, their mortgage person. The options here of who they are very, very, very wide, right? In terms of how you're going to categorize them. So you can have your whole group of people affiliated with your transaction that you might have to send documents to in here as people. So typically you would also add a client. Just going to throw that out there. We really hope there's a client involved if we're writing a deal. So if I add a person, right? So if I say Bill, is there an H? What is it? No, your address, your email. Bill.Bill? I love it, Tom. Every time I switch to a different keyboard, at gmail.com?
Yeah, Bill.
You said Bill.Bill.
Tompkins at gmail.com.
Oh, bill.bill.
Yes.
Oh, I got it. God, this is complicated.
Sorry.
Okay, so you're going to be my buyer. Okay? Everybody with me so far? So I'm going to add that person. So then you've got your people. Okay? So then I need to do my document. So I have a couple of different solutions. So one is to look at templates. So I'm going to look over here in templates first. So this is where, now this is in my loop. So you're going to see on the screen it says CS templates. So that's my transaction coordinator's initials. So it's things that she's created for us are in there. So you can do that as well if you have things you regularly use, you can have them. So NS fillable forms means Nova Scotia fillable forms. So this is where every form that exists in RealtorLink is uploaded in here. Okay, that's what I was talking about before, that you have this option. My preference is for speed. It's faster to use web forms, but they are here. It's your choice. Do what you want. Okay, PEI, none of you should be touching PEI forms. Please don't touch PEI forms. And so version now is where we have other templates as well. Okay, so in there, so this is where, so the forms, they've been, I think Chelsea broke them out, but all of our forms are also in version now, okay? Now we've pulled out, under us, the KW schedule, because we fill the KW schedule out in here, because it's not a web form, right? So if I wanted to add this, I would click the tick, and I would copy, and it has imported it into my loop. So I'll show you that in a second. So now I'm going to go over and I'm going to move into web forms. What? Oh, that would be why. There, I would need all my letters. Ta-da, I really do honestly have access to Paragon. Okay, so I'm going to go under web forms. And I'm going to take, I'm just going to take a printable form. So let's take, I'm a buyer, so let's do my agreement of purchase and sale. Oh, my buyer designated, let's do that. Oops, I'm going to edit it. Okay, so I'm going to make Bill my buyer. I apologize, this is not my keyboard. And you live at 156 Anywhere Street. So I fill, oh, that doesn't belong there. So you go through, you fill out your whole form, blah, blah, blah. I'm buying in Nova Scotia. You're designating me because I said that I was your agent before when we did our loop, remember? Yeah. So it starts on today, and I don't know, it doesn't even matter when I pick. I'll just, you love me and are taking me for 2 years. So you go through, fill out your form. Bill also loves me. He's going to pay me a whole % on top of what I charge. Yeah, isn't he awesome? He's really great. So we fill it out, et cetera, et cetera. Doesn't even, it makes absolutely no difference what I'm putting in here for the purposes of what we're doing. I'm just being cheeky. So where did my form go? What did I just do? What did I just do with my form? Yeah, it worked great, didn't it? What did it just do? Ah, fudge. Did it keep it? Ah! Okay, I don't know why it did that to me, but anyway. And I'm spelling your name wrong. Okay, so we know there's an ad, and then there's no P now. It's just getting worse. Okay, we know we have to fill it all in, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. Okay, so download read-only PDF. If you're in a kit, you would do it by picking the forms in your kit. The changes you made, no, why is it doing this? Okay, let's see what she looks like. Yeah, it saved it, okay. So then I go back to DotLoop, and I'm going to add a document. I'm going to click Browse, and I'm going to go to Downloads. There's my buyer designated. So you can only upload PDFs into DotLoop, please note. If you have pictures of an inspection, if you have anything like that, you've got to convert them to PDF to upload them, okay? So now I'm going to go in and we're going to do something with these. So let's just look at what my menu options are. So I can add a folder. So let's say, I'll give you an example. I personally create a folder for my agency documents. I put my working with a realtor and my buyer designated in one folder, and then I put my offer in another folder because I don't want to accidentally click all and send my confidential agency documents to the other side. Okay? If I'm doing an amendment on inspection, I'll often create a separate folder so that all of the stuff back and forth and the inspection report and everything else I'm attaching, quotes, blah, 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 it's all in one thing. It also is important to name your documents. Don't call it Amendment 1, Amendment 2, Amendment 3. You know, you can rename something in here. Over here on the right-hand side, you have a drop-down menu. So I could rename this and call it BDBA Bob. If I then added a buyer later, because mom and dad have to sign on the mortgage, I could call it BDBA Mary and Joe, so that I can keep track of what I've got in here, okay? I can make a copy and move it somewhere else. I can download it, print it, do all kinds of stuff. So this is for the individual document. When I'm up here, no, that's not where I want to be, sorry. When I'm in my activity log, I'm doing it for the whole place. So the next thing, so let's go in and prep a document so we can see, you know, this is sort of like the basic level. So what it'll look like this, whether it's on your phone or in the app. Please note if you're using an Apple device or anything else where you want to do this, whatever you do on your desktop will land in your app. But you do need the app as well. So when you're using a mobile version, so I work off my iPad, my phone, I have a desktop here, and I have a desktop at home. So depending on what I'm doing, I'm in all four of them, okay? So there are slightly different things that you can do in the app that you cannot, you can do more things on the desktop version than you can do in the app. If you are on a tablet, there's a workaround. So for example, you cannot download a document in the app. It's not possible. So if you wanted to download, let's say someone sent you something and you wanted to download and strike something out and frig with it and then add initials to be able to do that, you need a flat version of it. So you can go to DotLoop in your browser on your iPad and it pulls up the desktop version. And then you can do what you need to do, close it, open up the app, and everything you just did is right there. So you can move back and forth between the two programs, okay? I've signed counteroffers in Costco leaning up against a box on my phone, right? It's magical, okay? So the first thing you're typically going to do, so the File tab, this is where you can download it, split a document. So let's say an agent sends you something and they send you more than you want, or you're changing something and you want to divide the document into two pieces. You can go here, press split document, and it'll ask you what pages you want where, how, and what the names of them to be, and it'll divide your document into more than one thing. Okay? A lot of times what happens is people send you, you know, the Holly. So for example, an agent will send you the offer, the PDS, the this, the that, the power costs, and what. And okay, I don't want all of that. I just want to deal with the offer and my counter offer right now. I want to split it, right? I don't want all of that tied to my offer every time I send it to the client. It's going to confuse them. I'm not going to not give my client that stuff. I don't mean it that way, but I want them separated. And they couldn't be bothered because they stood at a fax machine and scanned it to me, right? So I could split that up into here, and I could call the PDS. I could break the PDS out. I could break the power costs out. I can break it into, so here it says split the document in 2. I can split it into 3. That's about as far as you can go. Then you could resplit a second time until you get as many pieces as you need. Okay, is that helpful for you guys? So that's the split. Document download is download. I don't need to explain that one, except that it's now flat. So it's preserved everything. So if you got, so let's say you get an offer from another agent by DotLoop, and they didn't give you editing privileges. They just sent view only. And now you want to add your client's signatures to it, or do a strikeout or change something, you would download it and then re-upload it again as a new document. Did I lose anybody there? So if I got an offer from Jamie, he sent it to me in .loop, I can't edit. Well, I can't add my signatures to that document. So I've got to download it, save it as offer 123 Smith Street, upload it back as an add document. Then I would go in and add my signatures and my initials.
From a broker perspective,
Hang on. People online can't hear unless you.
would you
Instead of my leaning my chest into you.
would you prefer we not give you editing privileges? If I were to send you an offer, would you prefer I not give you editing privileges so you had it downloaded, or would you prefer me just give you editing privileges?
It doesn't really matter because you can't, if you can't change it even with editing to do anything with the other person's signatures, it will delete it. Okay. My personal preference is that I tend to send agents view only. I tend to send edit privileges to my clients if I'm wanting them. We've discussed everything and I'm sending it them and I want them to type the price in. Okay. So I do a lot more editing privileges on the listing side because we send our PDS to our clients in .loop to fill in .loop. I haven't handed a client a PDS in 4 years. My handwriting is nowhere on the PDS. I don't do it. They do it in .loop and I have it instantly. So I need to give them editing privileges to do that. Okay. It doesn't really matter. You know, you're not going to allow a document to be fiddled with, and the .loop won't let them change anything major anyway.
So you're okay with me sending you an offer on your listing,
Yep.
giving you editing privileges?
Yeah. That's right. But 99% of the time, that's not what you're actually going to get from somebody. So you need to know how to get at it, which is the download trick, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So what happens, so then I've got download, rotate. It's obviously, they've loaded it sideways or upside down is what it is. So you need to be able to turn it around. That's that one, okay? Apply a template and save as a template. These are ones you're very unlikely to use. You would have to, that's an extremely high level. And I honestly don't think all that practical. So I wouldn't worry about those right now. Add is your number one place you're gonna go, which is add signature, add initials, add text, add date, add a name, add a checkbox. This checkbox you're gonna use a lot. Strike through. So let's go through and we're gonna add a couple of these. So let's say I want to add a strike through because, I don't know, it doesn't really apply on a buyer designated, more on an offer where you'd strike out the well and septic, right? But I'm just gonna strike out anything because it doesn't really make any difference what the actual clause is for the purposes. So you get your little box, you get your line, and then you kind of play with the little dooflicky here. It's never super exciting to, this is the worst mouse in the world. There we go. So there's my line. Holly drives her crazy. Okay, so now here's the next trick because I don't want to do that 10 times. That's annoying, right? So I am going to click on this box or this line. Look at me clicking on the box. And I'm going to do Control-Shift-C. Oh, this is, I just did a Mac thing on this, just a second here. So I'm going to click this. Okay, it's red. Control Shift C. And I'm going to do Control Shift V. Now I have another line. Control Shift V. That's how you strike through a whole clause without losing your mind. Pretty close. I accidentally dropped a checkbox in there, so ignore that. And then, of course, whenever I strike out, I have to add initials. So I add my initials. I assign it to Bill. Okay. Now, if I want this box, sometimes the boxes are too big, depending on the little space, so I can fiddle around with that. I can also Control Shift C initial boxes all the way through. Control Shift V all the way through. So you only have to assign the initial once, and then you can drag it and copy it all the way through the document. V is paste, C is copy. So I have to do Control Shift C to select the thing I'm going to copy, and then Control Shift V to move the thing to be another thing. Is that technical enough for everybody? Does that work? Control Shift C is C is in cat, is copy, or I could have said Control. Yeah, C for copy, that works too. But V does not work. V does not spell paste in any way that I know. So Control Shift V, as in my daughter's name, Victoria, is paste. Okay, so I can do that for my lines. I can do that for checkboxes. I can do it for signatures, initials. It is much less annoying than doing it individually each time. So then let's say I go, oh, I forgot to add my team. So I can add text, and I can drag a giant box. Then I can type in here and go blah, 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 whatever it is that I want to say. And, you know, oh, I'm changing the price. We struck it out. So over here are your instructions with the Control Shift V, save, are over here. So you don't have to remember what I'm telling you, because the program will show you. When you're in the desktop version, it won't show you this in the app. Okay? So then I want to add my signature. So I go here, and I add Bill, so I assign it to him. Then, because 98% of agents forget to sign their own documents, I'm going to add mine now. Yes, I will add a checkbox for you, my darling. So then I'm going to click Sign Now. Now, so this is an interesting combination. We have Alexia's name and Richard's initials. Because we're a team. So everybody goes in and changes the name. So this does work, though, as well. If you are sent a document by someone and they've spelt your name wrong, you can fix it in here before you sign. Hi, do you need me? I can sign something for you. So I'm going to click Adopt and Sign. So now I've sent it. So now my client already knows that I've signed my part of the agreement. Okay. And I'm going to add a checkbox in a random place because we have no specific need for a checkbox on a buyer designated, but we're going for it. So I'm going to add a checkbox right in the middle of the document, just because we're showing you how to do a checkbox. And then I'm going to click on the checkbox, and ta-da! Checked. So when you're doing amendments in the current form, you have to tick accept, reject, prepare to further amendment, or keep the agreement. You have to add the tick box for your client as to what they want, right? So this allows you to do this on top of someone else's document. Clear like mud for everybody? Okay, excellent. So we've done strike through, adding a name, adding a date. These are obvious. Text are the ones you're going to use the most, initials and signatures, and strike through. Please remember that when you strike a clause, you must initial in the margin, not in the boxes underneath. Clear? Everyone clear with that? Yep, okay. So then, I'm going to save my document. Remove fields that overlap. What have I overlapped? Oh, yes, thank you. Oh, this one. So to remove something, so I go here and I click, oh, I clicked the wrong one out, but now I can see my other thing. So I can just click the X and it goes away. Okay? So I'm going to save it because I haven't finished my other document yet. So I don't want to send my client 50 DotLoop emails. I want to send them all of the documents at once. Okay? So the other thing that'll happen is when we do this, when we go to share it, it's going to tell me how many fields I've assigned to a client. One of the great things is when you have two people signing, so let's say it's two parties to an agreement. So let's say Jamie and I are buying a house and Pat's our agent, he sent us our loop. When he went to send it to me, it would say 13 fields were assigned to you and 14 fields were assigned to me. That means that I now know, Pat knows that he needs to check where did you miss putting a box in for the other client, because they should match. Two people on the same agreement should have the same number of boxes. Fair? Okay. So then the KW schedule is not a form that was populated in web forms, it's a flat form. So now you can have it auto-populate or you cannot. It's up to you. I'm not personally a big fan of the auto-populate, but that's me, right? But I'm going to go through for buyer 1 and I'll show you the autofill, okay? So it pre-filled you, okay? So now it already assigns it because it puts you, it's supposed to put you down there, but it didn't, which is why I don't use this. So, so then I would be going in and filling this out. So this is my Schedule A. The seller's name is, Harry. Oops, that is the wrong keyboard. Right, so you go through, you fill it all in, fill in your dates. So then here, if this is Bill, I'm going to assign to Bill Tompkins. Then personally, I delete the extra boxes because I find it confusing for the consumer if looks like there's fields to sign. And unless I've given editing privileges to the other side, I also take out the seller boxes because, again, they may not use my program. Now it's confusing. And so I typically just leave my own stuff in and let the other side worry about their own stuff. Okay? Oh, God, I didn't mean to do that. So you go through, you fill it out. Again, I assign this field to Bill. And then let's say there was something extra. So I would take these other boxes out. Let's say there's something else I wanted to add. The client's like, can you make sure that they clean up the dog mess in the backyard? And I add that in here. I type it in, et cetera, add a number to it, and then I can add initials and throw extra stuff at the bottom if I need to, right? So I'm going to remove this over here, the X. Now, again, within text, you have the ability to bold something, change the color. You can do all kinds of exciting editing things, okay?
And
yep.
And before you go too far, when you added, remove the dog poop, and then you said, I'm going to assign it a number, what did you mean by that?
Meaning that you can't just have a random clause without a number. So here, this is clause 8. So if you're adding a clause, you need to make it clause 9.
Okay, I see. Right.
Because
okay, cool.
if somebody wants to counter you and or say delete clause what? Clause random about the dog poop, that doesn't, like, you can't refer to it. They'd have to delete the whole schedule to edit. It just becomes a mess. So you always want to add a number or a letter or something to anything you're drafting, okay? So I've already saved this, so I'm going to go back to my folder and go, okay, so now I have everything ready. I'm going to send it to Bill, okay? So I have a couple of choices. I could click the individual documents, or I could click just the folder, right? If I click all of it, I'm going to click all of it. So that's why you want to be careful if you're putting everything into one big long list, that you don't click folder, because you may end up sending a previous offer. Like, you could really mess yourself up, okay? So that's my recommendation, to separate. So now I say, okay, so I am going to share this with Bill. So then you have a right to write you can write a message, and I usually go, hi, blah, 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 let me know if you have any questions, etc. Now, I also make sure that when I'm sending it to a client that I give them a preparatory introduction to what's going to happen. So if Jamie, you were my buyer, pretend you're Bill for a second. So I'm emailing you. So we're going to do your buyer designated. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to email it to you. When you get it, I want you to call me, and we're going to go through it section by section. So let me be very clear. Sharing documents this way does not remove your obligation to explain the document to the client. So typically what I will do is recommend that you send it first to the client with no signatures, nothing inserted. Because when the client receives it, the program will automatically zoom them through the document from one signature or initial to another, and it's very difficult to actually read the document. So for example, I had an offer come in last night on one of my properties. I uploaded it into DotLoop. I called my client and I said, okay, so I'm going to send it to you this way. As soon as you're in front of your computer, call me and we're going to go through it section by section. So we go through all the highlights, the clauses, discuss what we're going to do, have read the meat and potatoes of the offer. Then I prepare the counter offer accordingly. Then I load all the signatures and then I send it. She's already read it. We've talked about it. Okay. Same with buyer designated. Same with you're working with a realtor. This should not be that they send it, and if you think they're going to read it as it zooms them from one initial to another, they're not reading it. And you are still required to explain it. So the best way to do it is to first send it as a flat PDF, go through it with them by phone, and then to send it to them with the signing version, because then they just will click, they've read everything, they can see it. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So the other thing is I always want to tell my clients, no matter who they are, buyer, seller, doesn't make any difference, to please accept the beautiful signature that it gives you to choose from. Because if you try to draw your signature on your pad or with a mouse, it looks like you're writing with your feet. Like, it's terrible. It is the most beautiful signature you've ever had. It doesn't look anything like your signature. It's perfectly legal. Just click yes. If you prep them for that, they will be comfortable with it. Otherwise, everybody defaults to trying to draw their signature, and it's a miserable experience from then on. Okay? So I'm going to say, my blah, blah, blah message. I also make sure that I tell the client, you're going to get an email. In my case, it will say the De Silva Goss Group has, by DotLoop, has shared a document with you. It is not spam, because they don't remember the name of the program. And it comes in going, DotLoop, urgent, attention needed. De Silva Goss has sent you a message. Okay, clients don't know what this is. So if you tell them that, then they're watching for it. Okay? The other piece of your instruction is to recommend that your clients download the app. It doesn't matter whether they're Android or on their phone, because if not, they don't have to check their email. They'll get a notification on their phone that something is coming in. So tell them to download the app and tell them to turn notifications on. Does this make sense to everybody? Because then it will pop up like a calendar invite or a text message that DotLoop has a message. This has saved me so many times, because clients who don't regularly check their email will see that notification, and you can message within DotLoop to communicate with clients, and sometimes they don't see their email and they don't have their text messages on, but they'll get the notification of an email or of a message through DotLoop. So have them turn their notifications on. It's also a lot easier to always go into it through the app than to have to go into their web browser or into their email, and it opens a web browser if you go on your phone through your email. So it's very small versus in the app. So to give your client the best experience possible, please tell them to download the app for when they're mobile. Okay? So I send Bill my message, blah, 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 so exciting, whatever my perky high eye message is that I send to my clients. If anybody doesn't know it, does anybody here not know what the I and D and all that is in the room? That's a different class. Okay. You're not surprised by my high eye. So I just sent Bill a message. So in theory, if he had the thing, his phone would pop up, etc. So then when Bill gets the email, are you able to log into your Gmail here? Do you mind? No, over here, so that they can see what the buyer looks like. Okay, so I'm going to mess with Bill because it's fun. I'm trying to find another, oh, there's Firefox. No, that's the thing. Where's another? I need another browser. Type, this is Google, so do we have Firefox? No. No? Okay, I will use Explorer. So, okay, so the reason I'm going into a second browser right now is because if he logs into DotLoop while I'm in DotLoop in the same browser, it's going to get confused and think that he's me. Okay? So what I want you to see is what your client sees. Okay? So you said it was Gmail? Oh, God, don't fall down. Bill's like, oh, my God, I didn't realize I had to be interactively involved in this process. And no one's going to look at any other emails that Bill's got in there. So click next. Isn't this mouse insane? See, it's not just me, I promise.
I have no idea what that is.
Okay, don't worry about it. Okay, so what will happen is the client will get an email and it'll say, Anda Silva, DotLoop has shared a document. Click here to view the document. Okay, so what happens then is that client will click on it and they will go in and it will direct them through to sign it. So I'll show you guys that another time. Okay, so the next piece is that I, as the agent, can see that it hasn't been signed yet. So when you have two people, this is more relevant. So if I click refresh, because just sitting there looking at it, by the way, if you don't refresh it from time to time, means you don't actually know what's happening. But a lot of times what happens is you'll have a couple and you're waiting for one of them to sign. Or one of them thinks they've signed and you're like, no, you've signed 3 out of the 4 documents. You're like, oh my gosh, how do you know that? Right? Because you can see waiting on others. Once it's signed, this will actually say signed. So if I'm going to go back to my loops, I have another test loop that I can see what I got in here. I didn't add anything to that one. That's a really uninteresting loop, isn't it? Right, so that one's not signed. That's perfect that I keep picking ones that are no good to you. Depends on the class what we do. Okay, signed. So this is what I'm talking here. So this is signed. So I know that the parties involved in this transaction have signed the deal. So I can look at it and I will see that the person has signed it. So now I can decide that I want to share this with the other agent in its final form. Does this make sense to everybody? So the other thing is creating forms that your clients can fill. So if I go back to the loop we're in today, so let's say I want to add a PDS. So you can scroll through. You don't have to dig through every document here. So I'm going to click Property Disclosure. I'm going to copy it in. So now, when I look here, I have this. So it's an empty PDS. Okay. So I will typically add the property and the PID for the client because they don't know their PID. Okay. and then I will go to share it, because I'm not touching this. I'm not filling anything in. I'm going to share it, and I'm going to change this can sign to can edit. Either to fill in sign is simpler, or edit in private. And then what happens is the client gets them, and it takes them through each box and lets them either tick a box, type in the box, whatever. You assign their initials before you do it. I do assign the signature places. And then they go through and they fill it, and you end up with a completed PDS electronically. Brilliant. Love it. It's also really great. Let's say you did have a client that hand signed a PDS, and let's say, like my house, and one of my properties that I own, I don't have any roof shingles on the whole back of my house. I have that stapled tarp thing going on right now. It's fabulous. So I would need to update my PDS. Well, I can just, have them type in the change and initial it and shoot it back to me. And now I have an updated PDS with the, blah, 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 roof shingles to be replaced, yada, yada, insurance involved, etc. Right? Does that make sense to everybody? So the other piece of this, so I'm going to go back to the loop. So the other piece of this is your history. So the activity log at the top is the activity log for the entire loop. So this is the big list, okay? This is everybody who's done everything in every document all at once. So if I log here, you're going to see it's going to list each individual document, what they did, where they went, when they opened it, when they shared it, when they signed it, when they edited it. It's all going to show there under activity log. But if I don't care about the whole loop, I only care about one particular document. So let's say, Pat, you're my listing agent, or you're the listing agent, and I sent you an offer. I've called you, I've texted you, I've emailed you, and you are being that agent who's not answering me. Well, I want to know if you actually got the flippin' offer. I can look under the activity log of the actual, let's say the PDS was an offer, right? It would go under history, and it's going to show me just the history of that specific document. So now I know Pat's got it. He's just being Pat, honestly, and not calling me back, which is of course not true at all. He's lovely. So, but you can do that to know. Does this make sense to everybody? So I'm going to show you another example of how you can use this with respect to your tracking. I'm going to look for, really? Oh, where's another one? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Did I do it in here? Okay, so here's an example when we sent an electrical quote to go with the amendment. We attach it in DotLoop and add the initials of the client to go over. Does that make sense to you guys? So when you attach when you're attaching documents or sections of an inspection report, right? You can, I don't know what this is. No, that's something else. So, for example, when we send the relevant sections of an inspection report, we upload the PDF of the inspection report, separate the document, delete it. I often do it in PDF Expert because I circle and highlight and do different things, and I attach to my amendment in one folder the relevant pages of the inspection report, the quote if necessary, and the amendment, and I send that as one thing, and I want the whole thing initialed by everybody. So this is very important in terms of procedural, okay? Good broker management for you guys in the sense of your deals. I give a story from years ago. It's probably 3.5 years ago now. I could be 4. I don't know. I have no sense of time. We sent an amendment over for a water system and sent the quote this way. Our client had signed and sent it over. We can't really compel them. There's no physical way for me to compel them to sign the quote back, sign the amendment. It's not like the other side, but we know they got it because they signed it and they sent it back. And in there, we had required the other side to provide a clean water test to put in the system based on the very detailed quote, failing which the holdback would be held by the lawyers for exactly the amount of the quote. provide clean water tests, right to reinspect, blah, 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 usual and clause. And so 2 days, we do days, like actual dates, not days before. You guys know that. So let's say it was supposed to close March 1st, so February 26th, we're supposed to get our water test. We're calling the other agent. Hi. They're like, ooh, not calling us back. Then we're calling the lawyer. We have no receipt for proof of work. We've got nothing. So we show up on pre-close knowing we're probably going to have a problem and walk in. It was supposed to be the like $4,000, Mac Daddy of all water systems. And there's like a UV light and a water softener. And the bill they sent to the lawyer was for like $800. And the quote we had was like super specific, right? Like this type of model that does this, that does that, X amount. So the other agent tried to say, well, I didn't get a quote from you. We took a screenshot of the activity log and sent it to the lawyer, showing that he had opened it and viewed it. Within 5 minutes, the money was in our client's lawyer's trust account. It was absolutely foolproof. There was no, well, I didn't get the email. There was no attachment. There was no this. There was no that. So when it's important, this is your insurance policy to protect your client. So our client, they were upset that it wasn't there, but they were not upset because we told them if the other side did not perform, that we would absolutely get them 100% of their money to get that water system put in. And within 5 minutes, it was sorted. And what that other agent did or how he dealt with his client, not my problem, not my monkey. We did our job. We protected our client. And that screenshot was a nail in that coffin. Whether that seller was just trying to, find a way out of it, I don't know. It doesn't make any difference to me. The point being, if I had just sent an email, how do I prove you got it? How do I prove it didn't get lost in cyberspace? How do I prove the file wasn't too big? You say you didn't get it. I say you did. And now we're fighting. That's a different client experience on closing than this. Does that make sense to you guys? So from covenants, power bills, taxes, repair receipts, anything like that, you want to send this stuff through DotLoop. You don't want to send it by email. You can send an email to say, I've just shared all the documents with you by DotLoop, please confirm receipt. You can do it that way, but your trail is there. Okay? So that's one piece of it. So the other piece I want to quickly talk to you guys about. We're already an hour and 10 minutes in, so I don't want to go much longer because your brains will bleed if I go much further. But I do want to just quickly show you what the tasks are. So if we go back into our test loop, this is what I was talking to you before. At the bottom, it says add tasks. So you can load a template. So, why is it doing it that way for me? Just a minute. Oh, they've changed it. I'm going to have to go in and play with it. We used to just be able to just write in like a nothing task. Can I still do that? Yes, okay, there we go. I'm like, why did it do that? Okay, so I can add a task. Hook up your power, right? If I don't have a template, right? So then I can give it a date, right? So I can put a specific date. So let's say my client's closing is March 30th by really no later than, pardon me, if I firmed now, so let's say I put this date, doesn't make a difference. And then it's unassigned. So I want to, I'm sorry, I am, oh, assigned to no one. There. So I can assign this to Bill for him to do something. If you have a team, you can assign tasks to your individual humans within your group. So there's different ways to do that. And now Bill Tompkins on February 28th is going to get a notification from DotLoop to hook up his power. How cool is that? Okay. So there's other things you can do. You can, yeah, when you do that, you can, oh, fiddle. Once you do it, you can create templates and add a list, and there's further places you can go there. But again, I'm not going to go too far into that today. The one thing I do want to talk to you quickly about is listings, because listings are one of those ones that most people are not thinking about using DotLoop for. This is a choice in your business, how you do it. I still have to do 2 consults with my client. Okay, so we do our first appointment where we look at the house and tell them this needs to be painted and blah, 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 and the usual thing. and get rid of the junk, clean this, it smells weird, all the normal pre-consult stuff. And then you go back and you do your pricing and talk about timing and right. Everyone's with me on this, right? So I'm already been there enough. For me now to sit there and read through 13 pages of documents and then have them sign it and then my take them back and then scan them and send them to my admin person and or my team transaction coordinator and then deal with that and then okay, this I have just made a whole pile of work. So we are a paperless team. We function with no files, no paper. Everything is on Google Drive or in DotLoop. So I have, again, same thing. I will talk about it. We know what we're doing. We already know what our price is. We know exactly. We've generally had all the conversations about this. I'm going to send you your listing agreement. We're going to talk about it by phone for 20 minutes in the evening when your kids are in bed and you're sitting there, and then I'm going to send it to you and you're going to sign it and we're done. And then I just share it with the office and share it. Well, my transaction coordinator just goes into the loop and gets it. But and then it's there. I never ever have to print or scan or sign a piece of paper. It takes way less time for the client because they just go click, 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 click instead of flip. I never miss an initial because we know how many fields there are per listing agreement. And I'm done. I send them their PDFs and they fill out their PDFs. I don't need their PDFs to go live. I need their PDFs in the next 24 hours so they can pull their stuff and they can finish that. And I send them as 2 different loops because I don't want the 2 things holding each other up. Does this make sense to everybody? The client has it. They also now, what happens when you do your transaction management this way for your client? You know that whole really important rule at the NSREC about your client always has to have a true copy every time you do a transaction? They have a true copy always of every single thing we've done. And they have permanent online storage because they can sign up for their free account. So I don't ever have to print, scan, mail, or do anything with the client's copies because they're already there. So we're cutting, again, it's a more enjoyable experience for the client. They have a copy, I have a copy. I don't need to take 10 other steps now and it's running, oh, it's in my briefcase. So I don't have, the only thing, I just was in California for 10 days. The only thing I had was my iPad and my phone. And we did 5 deals while I was gone. So you don't need it. Pat, yes. Hang on. We want the online people to hear. You're attached to my necklace.
So you don't scan anything, right?
No.
No. Okay, so you got a copy of the roofer's certificate of what he did.
I use a scanning app on my phone.
Oh, okay. Or if you got a scanner at home, you can use it.
I don't want to leave with clients' paper because then I have to bring it back to them.
Oh, so the scanning app works good on the phone, eh?
Amazing. You can, some people have a portable scanner. I used to, back in the day, I was pretty high tech. I had a little portable scanner. I was there with my laptop. But I use the scanning apps now. If I need it, I really don't want my clients' documents because I will never get it back to them. It will die in an abyss on my desk. So I don't want it. I want to scan it and I want to upload it into our Google Drive so that everybody has it instantly. I had a client or an agent ask me today. I was at lunch with my team and she wanted all my condo docs on one of my listings. And it's like 2 folders on Google Drive. It took me a minute to send it to her. So for condos, for example, we have our clients contact the property manager, copy us on the email and send it to us. One client said, would you like us to print them and mail them to you? No, I really, really do not want you to do that. Because then I have to stand at the machine and scan them all. No, I'd really just like an electronic copy. Thank you very much. So power bills, taxes. Worst case scenario, I'm going to take a picture with my phone if my scanning app doesn't work, and I'm going to convert it to a PDF later if I have to. But I don't want your paper. I really do not want any original documents from my clients. Well, I don't need it. Why do I need it? Same thing with power bills. Same thing with that. We do the requests for our clients where they sign them, and we just get the histories, 12 months, 12 months, 12 months. I'm not scanning 24 bills into a big giant pile. You don't want that as an agent. You don't want to get 24 pieces of paper to go with oil and power, and there you have to add it all up. I just want the nice little chart that Nova Scotia Power gives me, or the little email that comes from Wilson's that says this person has used $2,362.45 worth of oil. That's all I really want, right? I don't need the actual bill. I need the number, and I need the number to be official from a company. So that's why we're paperless. We don't have any physical files. Our files are all digital.
Kind of not related, but to scan the app for your phone.
Not Pro is the best one we found. Oh no, Scannable. Scannable, I think is what we're using. I can tell you. 1 minute, please. Yeah, Scannable. It's got a little butterfly. Is the blue with a butterfly? It's one. Yes, my transaction coordinator does all of our IT as well. And if Chelsea says it's the best one, it's the best one. And that's my philosophy on that. I'm not interested in researching what she's already researched. I'm really big on not doing things twice. Yeah, it works really well. You can do it on your iPad or on your phone. And I'm very sure it's Android compatible as well. You know what? There's probably 30 of them. They're all basically the same. You know, you hold your phone over, you drag the little box, it does it, it uploads it as to a PDF. Scannable is nice because it combines multiple documents into one document. I don't end up with 12 scanned documents. So I can, if I have something where there's more pages, it will make one document, and then I don't have to fiddle with it later. Okay. So the concept behind this is to use this as, I don't know if everybody thinks of DotLoop as a e-signature program, but what DotLoop actually is, and what it is, its product category is, if you go to a trade show, is document management. It's a document management service. It's not actual, the e-signature is only one element of its document management, because it's about sharing and storing information in a secure, efficient way. Okay? So you're going to get as much out of it as you choose to get out of it, and you do need to play with it. Okay? Is Evernote, is the app Evernote scannable? No. I don't know. Mine just says scannable. Is it Evernote? Okay. Yeah, it's a blue butterfly out of paper or something.
Look like that?
Yes.
Yes, Evernote.
Evernote scannable. Yep, there you go. I also use Evernote for my notes when I go to conferences, but that's a different conversation. I'm not going to talk about that one today. So what I do suggest is that you play with the program on your various devices. There is nothing more frustrating than being in a time crunch and now you're using it on a device you don't normally use it on. If you are not using an iPad as a tablet, I have to be honest, I have absolutely no idea how to use anything other than an iPad as far as a tablet. I have no idea how to use anything that's a Galaxy, whatever. I don't know. I have no idea. Microsoft, whatever they're called, Surface. I have no idea. So with the iPad, the thing you have to remember is that if you're taking a document, so let's say, Pat, you emailed me my offer. Okay, you're the buyer's agent, I'm the seller's agent. You emailed me the offer. When I'm in my mail app, if I touch the document, the attachment in my mail, it'll say open in. There's no desktop on a tablet or on a phone. So you have to say open in DotLoop. If you're looking for it some other way, you won't find it. Does that make sense? Okay. So we can do a whole class on tablets. That's another option that we can certainly do. But what I wanted to give you today was a bit of an overview of different things. So before we close off, because again, we're at 90 minutes now. We're past the maximum learning capacity of an adult, especially for something technical, right? So are there any specific questions that I have not yet answered for you today? Any burning issues, concerns? No one in the moment because the brains are all leaking.
Run over quickly, sign in yourself. Having the people there sign in.
Having the people
Be with you and sign in.
Okay, so the hosting. Okay, that is, you need to, I can't right now. I'll have to do this a separate one, but if you can remind me, Larry, when we do the next one, because that takes about 25 minutes to show. Because we have to log into the two browsers, you have to get in, you have to get out. It's a bit fussy. Typically, most people aren't doing that.
I'm doing it.
Or you, get better. Okay. So, yes. Oh, sorry. Oh. So hosting in-person signing allows you to be physically sitting with your clients at the listing presentation or the buyer presentation and to physically sign on your device while you're there. Okay. So if we do that, what we want to do is we want to do almost like a role play where we have two people signing in. We want to log into the two accounts and do it here. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So we're not going to use Bill next time because it doesn't know his email password. So, so what we can do is our next session, we can start with that if you're all here and then move from there because it's a really great tool if you're not doing what I'm doing, which is the separate call later. Okay. Hang on, Larry. No one can hear you talking. And we want to hear you. Here's some sauce.
But it does, once you do one form, then you have to go back into that, re-sign yourself back into DotLoops again.
It's a little fiddly, right? I don't think so, and I have to be honest. The reason that I don't do it is also because I find, and maybe it's just sometimes it's my tech karma. When people are watching me, it's like it never works, right? So there's sort of like a pressure when you're sitting there with clients that you're telling them this is going to be so efficient and easy, and then like the internet signal doesn't work or you can't log in or like I'm like so I'm totally like the rest of you. And so part of it is also just time, right? And picking that time when they can be concentrated on it and doing it later. It's your choice how you do it, but I will certainly show you how to do the hosting in-person signing, okay?
I usually do it this way, where I send it through their email, but I still sit with them.
That's the easiest way to do it. Yeah. So what Jamie's saying is that he shares it with them, then logs out, right? You don't log out, or you're going in with them in their email?
I sit across the table from them, and I say, get out your phone.
Okay.
I'll explain the paperwork to them,
Okay.
and then I'll send it to their email, and they'll just pop their phone out and sign it.
That's probably the easiest in-person signing than trying to do the actual in-person signing, because I got to be honest, it's a little miserable, right? It also depends on the technological competence of your clients. If you have clients who are very nervous about how to use apps, or that they can barely text, then what Jamie's doing I think is fantastic, because you're troubleshooting it in front of them, and then they're all excited because they did it, right? So whether they open up their email or whether they open up on their own device or they open up a tablet or their phone and sign there, I actually like that better. That's awesome. Thank you for that, Jamie. Instead of trying to actually use the DotLoop in person, because it really honestly is not. It's not fun. What may be happening is if you're doing at that time for clients who aren't specifically mobile and maybe only have computers at work and they don't actually have smartphones or that type of thing, you signing it there gives you that paperless version. So I think it just depends on being adaptable. A lot of times it has to do with time, right? I know I've done listing presentations virtually by GoToMeeting, where I've shared my screen depending on the timing, because we cannot get ourselves coordinated out of a paper bag based on kids' schedules and hockey and whatever, where we've done it that way so that they can actually see the comps online and we share them and do it that way. So there's lots of different ways to work your business. You have to be comfortable with it. But again, the idea is to look at these tools as more than, what I want you to see from this is that it's more than just a signing program. There's a broker management in the sense of managing your transactions. There's accountability. There's coverage for you that you've done what you said you were going to do when you said you were going to do it. There's protecting your clients. There's tracking. There's storage. There's accessibility, mobility. I on the weekends in the summer, from May 15th till October 7th, I am not physically in town Friday night, Saturday night, or Sunday until noon. I'm at my trailer. So once I put my tinfoil hat on so I can get a great signal, I do all my deals virtually, sitting on a lawn chair on my deck. So, it's a sin. So I do come in on Sunday afternoons to physically go out with humans. Not to say I don't work with them on Saturdays, but I try to, but I can still write an offer. I can still do an amendment. I can still do it. It takes me, a few minutes on my phone. Clients have no idea that I'm not sitting in my home office diligently There. Well, no, I'm not drinking a beer while I do a deal because, that's a whole other. The tinfoil hat. Holly loves my tinfoil hat. I got to tell you, there are days at the trailer where you got to find like the particular tree that the signal will be ideal, depending on what you're doing. Anyway, so with that, I'm going to close off for you. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I appreciate it. And I think our next session is probably going to be April for DotLoop. If there is anything in the interim that you have a urgent question, please reach out. If I don't know the answer, I will always tell you I don't know the answer, and we will find out who does know the answer. Okay, thanks, guys. Everybody have a great day. Now, how do I? Yay! I don't actually know how to stop this. I think if I just close it, that would really be terrible if I lose the thing. I think I'm going to grab Aaron again because I'm not sure and I don't want to lose the recording.